This is Lenin, the Lion. It's a story-focused puzzle game released by Lenin in 2019. I find it to be pretty surprising how little known this game is. I only randomly found it while scrolling about on GameJolt, and I ended up really liking it. It's an RPG Maker game, an MV one at that. Hey, it's about time I run into an MV game. But it's really gone to show me just how unique these games can be, and the expression of ideas that can be brought forth from them. The game stars an albino lion named Lenin, who is too precious and must be protected at all costs. I mean, he is a teenager that grew up being hated by most of the population because of his appearance, and dealing with mental abuse over the years has led him to develop several illnesses that haunt his life. Oh, I'm sorry, this is kind of a depressing game. I mean, the game starts with his mom dissing him for not being born the right color while nearly everyone in his dead-end village roasts him. Like, it's almost comical how terrible these people are. You know things are bad when one of the nicer people in this village is the cop. And Lenin, after taking a break from his school due to his illnesses, finally gets the courage to try again. And the first thing that happens is that he gets jumped by the local bullies. Like, dang, give my man a break. But despite how I'm making it seem, I'd still say that this is kind of a hopeful game. A majority of this game takes place in Lenin's mind, a huge world split into 4 different sections plagued by his depression, feelings of hopelessness, anxiety, and the such. And it's by exploring these worlds and player decisions that Lenin has the potential to either overcome these things or let it haunt him forever. Even though the beginning seems rough, there are still a lot of kids at the school that are nice to Lenin, if anything indifferent. It's not a mean-spirited game, and I found myself rooting for Lenin the whole way through. Even though he doesn't directly talk, he still shows off a ton of personality. This boy is too good for this world. And it's probably obvious by now if you know me, but I can relate to quite a bit of this stuff, like mental illnesses sprung forth from childhood trauma, being hated your entire life. Sign me up, baby! I also really like how it's all portrayed in the game. It's a very blunt game. It doesn't really try to hide what it wants to say. Like, I am literally walking through the bipolar woods right now. Come meet me up and we'll have a party. And I like how when Lenin uses a computer, he searches up stuff about self-help, and how during certain dialogue choices, the obviously correct choice that will solve everything is grayed out, as if Lenin is too afraid to speak his mind and can only think about it to himself. Even how the school is presented in general. It's always hard to be accurate with a character like Lenin when it comes to showing how he is treated amongst peers, because I don't think someone like Lenin would actually go out of his way to talk to some of these people, but it is a game, so you can go and talk with everyone. I'm not saying the message is entirely surface level. There's a ton of hidden and interpretative stuff. Like, it was only later I really felt the idea of the part of Lenin's mind dealing with anxiety is shown through a mansion full of creative artists and musicians being burned down, the art pieces being melted and burned away from Lenin's fear of rejection from expressing himself. And that's the kind of stuff I love. This is a very self-empowering game. You'll come to learn it's not easy to get over these things. In fact, it will probably take you multiple playthroughs to fully beat the game, and I like that. I've heard some people say it's not a very original story, and while I disagree as I believe it is presented in a unique way, I also say that I love self-empowering stories, because the people who have dealt with these problems, I think it can be extremely cathartic or relieving to go through them as a character who's also trying to handle them, especially if you just so happen to be someone that is still being haunted by your mental illnesses. Imagine that. But yeah, I can see how this game can come off as being unrelatable, or even paternalistic by some. Some video games just aren't for everyone, you know? That's just how games or any piece of media is. Oh yeah, game. Gameplay. Counter. Presentation. I really like how this game looks. I know, classic spacey line. The dream environments are so pretty, and I can dig the aesthetic of these. Alongside things such as how all the characters are animated in some way, and the cut-in drawings that show off the characters are great too. The soundtrack is also really good, and it fits with the areas. The dream music has some insanely chill jams to get down to, while areas like the school sound just as anxiety-inducing and scary as you think it would. Back to the gameplay though, because honestly, I never know when to talk about the graphics and the music. Interestingly enough, this game highly recommends using mouse and keyboard to play, and by that I mean it's required. While the mouse doesn't do much most of the time besides opening up menus, it becomes imperative in some of the mini games. Lenin actually has 8 directional movement, aka he can move diagonally, which isn't something you see much in these games, so I'm gonna point it out. But yeah, this is mainly a puzzle-focused exploration game, so you'll be going around the world, interacting with obstacles, and finding collectibles. These are in the form of notes and CDs, the latter being something you can actually listen to on your Walkman. Sadly, you can't actually listen to it on the go and explore maps to your favorite themes. I haven't really messed with that kind of stuff, but there's probably some RPG Maker reason stopping you from doing that. But exploration is pretty fun, mostly because the environments are interesting within themselves. There isn't too much for puzzles, but what is there is good enough on its own. I was never really bored playing Lenin the Lion. I'm also a fan of all the interactions with the environment, like nearly every object has some sort of dialogue for interacting with it, and characters typically have multiple sets of dialogue if you interact with them again. That's always stuff I look for in these games but rarely see. Like, I didn't bring this up in the Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass review, but I thought it was so weird how that game had barely any interactive objects. And I know what you're thinking by now. Spacey, this whole sounds so boring. Where's the action? 1, shut up. 2, boom baby, this game has boss battles. And yeah, not RPG fight boss battles, I mean ones that actually require tight movements, decision making, and a lot of luck. Okay, so the bosses are pretty cool, I'll admit it. Even though I don't want to spoil them too much for now, they can be really frustrating. Like, actually too difficult in some cases. Dear God, can the fire please get the hell out of the way? But it is still pretty neat to see bosses handled in a way that isn't a combat system. I haven't quite seen an RPG Maker game attempt something like this in a way as interesting as Lenin the Lion does. As stated earlier, the game is structured between the dream world and the normal world, although you can revisit the dream areas for extra content assuming you got the good ending in the area. I guess that brings me to what might be my favorite thing about Lenin the Lion, and what I think might be its strongest point as well. Replayability. This game isn't very long. Like, my first playthrough probably took like maybe 6 hours, but it is a packed game. Nearly every action you do has an impact on the story and how it unfolds, not just dialogue choices. And depending on how you handle the dream areas, Lenin can in turn get over his illnesses, which affects dialogues and events with other characters. There's honestly a ton of different variables to the way things can go down. I think it's really cool to replay the game and see the different outcomes. The game even plays with this idea by only having one save file, and is actually aware of you reloading saves and such, which is something I didn't even know you could do in RPG Maker. That's pretty awesome. But I guess that also leads into my complaints about this game. Getting the good ending for areas, alongside the memory pictures for doing the normal world side quest correctly, can kind of be up to luck. You have no idea what things contribute to what, and when it comes to stuff like the self-sabotage desert, that crap is seemingly just dialogue choices, make the wrong ones, and well, that's it. As such, there's no way you'll get the best ending on your first playthrough, likely not even your second if you don't use a guide. And you can't really save scum it either without losing a ton of progress because there's only one save slot. This isn't a problem on paper. I think it's a good idea for the player not to get the best ending on their first playthrough, because it makes the next one feel more invigorating. And I replayed the game to get the best ending, because I love this boy so much, and he deserves the goddamn world. Look at that smile, oh my god. All I'm saying is that if you manage to get the good ending on that manor, you're lucky, and your dodges are nice. If you manage to get the good ending at the self-sabotage desert, you looked up a guide. And for how replayable this game is, it's not a very fun kind of replayable. I haven't brought this up yet, but you may have noticed, Lenin is slow. Very slow. This dude is in no rush at all. Combine that with the fact that a good amount of this game is reading dialogue, and well, it just doesn't make for a very entertaining replay. And that's not even getting started with the jank. So right clicking play this animation of Lenin opening up his backpack, and I did it while going through a screen transition, and it actually soft locked the game. I didn't test if this was redoable on any screen transition, but it might be. I got wombo comboed by flame traps at one point of the game, and I ended up stuck in a tree. I had to reload here too. Exit points of maps can be kind of weird too. There were several times I thought I was straight up stuck in an area because the map transition trigger wouldn't work. I think you have to be like standing in a certain place and facing a certain direction. It even led me to turning back at this point here because I thought this was just a dead end. I couldn't move on to the next map. The dialogue itself has quite a few typos, and I can understand. I'm pretty sure the author of this game doesn't speak English as their first language, but sometimes the game just hits you with some run-off sentences, and this is what a critical hit looks like to me. You can say this is all contributing to a potential lack of polish, but I would arguably say that this is kinda just how solo game dev is, and I'm perfectly fine with it. Still not as buggy as most modern AAA games. If it's not clear, most of this is just nitpicks. I don't really have much negative to say about this game. In case if it's not obvious, I actually really liked it. You should go play it, especially because we're gonna talk about spoilers for now. I was honestly pretty surprised how nice a lot of the other classmates were to Lenin. Like, sure, there were some terrible ones, but a lot of people were actually, they were pretty normal to Lenin. And maybe that just goes to show that people aren't really as terrible as they seem. Like, there's a point where these two bullies from earlier, you know, the ones that just jumped you a couple hours back, decided to make a deal with Lenin and be friends. It kind of reminds me of back when I was in school. There were like several kids I couldn't stand. Like, I've gotten in physical fights with these guys. Yeah, spacey throwing hands, it didn't go well. But then like a year or so later, I see the same kids again, and we're totally cool with each other. I guess it kind of just taught me that most people don't actually hold grudges or are as terrible as you think they are. I found myself really appreciating the dream world and the connections to the normal world. Like, there will be characters that slightly resemble the ones that you met at school, and it's kind of like Lenin meeting these characters here helps him out with getting over his troubles in the dream world. I think that is just such a cool detail. When you feel at one of the dream areas, you'll see areas change, like the school being on fire, and evil spirits will pop up in certain areas, but they can be dispelled by talking to certain people. It's like, even if he couldn't get over his troubles, Lenin is still trying. On my first playthrough, I only got the good ending for the second area, Nausea Fields. I think I got the neutral ending for the first area because I still beat the boss, but things didn't get fully restored like they did on my perfect playthrough, which really made me appreciate the different number of outcomes. I got slapped up at the Restless Mansion. For as much as the game hammers it into you, I kinda ignored the importance of not getting hit by the fire and electricity. And I still think the self-sabotage desert is a total crapshoot. Oh my god, there's ice sliding here! I promise you, this was the game that nearly broke me when it came to these things. Mostly for the final boss, but falling down a pit here is painful in its own way. It sends you back minutes. But I do like the "well" sound Lenin makes when he falls. I think it's really cute. I also found the goths to be kind of strange. I liked them, I thought they were pretty cool. And I always found myself joining the goth club, but I'm not sure if they are actually important in any way. I feel like they should have been a memory or something with them. I don't think they contributed much. Going back to the obtuse stuff, I thought it was weird that you had to set up the meeting with Jackson and the girl he liked by signing up for the music club early on. I didn't do that on my first playthrough, but still accepted everything of Jackson, but when heading to the music class, the girl didn't show up. The only factor of her showing up is Lenin signing up for the club early, which I thought was strange. I guess in some ways, I feel like I barely experienced the game. Like, there are so many outcomes and hidden things to this game, like the principal, never even met the guy. I don't even know who that character is, but you can meet them. And I haven't even talked about the happy house, which is such a hidden yet dark thing. Or the fact that there's an ending that involves running away from home, but activating it is super specific. And oh my god, meeting Zurigo. Meeting Zurigo might honestly be the coolest moment of this game. I barely want to show it. This dude is awesome, and the music that plays with him, oh man, what a great moment. It's just like such a powerful moment. There's just so many hidden things to Lenin the Lion, and maybe the cool part is that because this game is so underrated, you can't really find much on a lot of these areas and events. These are things you have to experience on your own. It makes these secrets and going out of your way to get the best ending, to beat the final boss, all the more rewarding. Which, by the way, screw the ice phase on the final boss, that crap is just luck. Ice sliding, dude. I promise you, if I ever step on ice in real life, I'm just gonna infinitely slide in a direction until I crash into a wall and explode. A part of me still wants to replay Lenin to see some of the different outcomes, because the game has proven itself to me as being one that really does have so many optional routes. In some ways I feel like I've barely experienced the game, like I need to replay the game a few more times. But on the other hand, I could never do things like purposely failing all the areas and getting the bad ending. If you all watch my Soma Spirits video, you know how I am. I just can't hurt characters I care about like that. It just makes me feel really bad, like why would I go out of my way to do that? And I guess overall, I'm pretty satisfied with what I did experience on my 2 playthroughs. I suppose in some ways, replaying the game kind of made the more frustrating things more frustrating. Like, The bosses are all pretty whack. Dodging the dream staff is hard, getting trapped and zapped at the mansion boss is super annoying, and I promise you sometimes the ice boss freezes you even when you're still moving. While I still understand the purpose of only having one save, it kinda sucks because my current save is at the final area of the game, which is not only a point of no return so I can't leave, but I can't even open my menu to view all the songs I collected, the memories, the notes, the items, and something about that just feels weird. Maybe if I was less of an impatient person I'd be fine with playing this game again, but I don't know. I need like a new game plus equipable item that increases Lenin's movement speed or something. But it does add such a mystique to this game, especially in the age where you can typically look up anything about a game, and I think that's pretty cool. I suppose that's all I really have to say about Lenin the Lion. I'm glad I played through it, and I recommend it if it seems like something up your alley, exploring dream worlds all the while helping out someone with depression, tons of interesting characters, great environments, and I thought the minigames and scenarios were pretty neat. Nowadays, I'm not entirely sure what the dev Juo Bueno is up to. It seems like they're pretty big on 3D art now, and I'll admit, I'm quite a fan of the work here. It's very pleasant to look at. Imagine if he was planning to make a game with this kind of art. Well, what's this? Project Rio? Whatever this project is, apparently Juo's art will be featured in it. I can't entirely say what Project Rio entails, as it was quite literally made a month ago and plans to reveal what it is soon, so get hyped for that. Dang, maybe I should have looked at this game later. But yeah, I'm still surprised I just randomly found this game scrolling on GameJolt. I guess it goes to show that there are some pretty hidden greats out there, you just have to find them. I'd still consider this game to be pretty underrated though. I feel like a lot of people would really be down for the story this game tells. I'll be sure to drop some links in the description, so if you're interested in this game, I'd say give it a buy and have a good time. Because this is Lenin the Lion, and it's fantastic. Hey guys, I haven't entirely given up hope on home yet, but I chose hard mode and quite honestly my life hasn't been the same since, so I'm working on it. I don't particularly have much to say this time, so I hope you all have a good one. Keep on loving and living, baby. I'm out of here.
Nossa ilha com nossos pais vivos. Eu gosto de sair fazer amigos. É sempre na volta, eu vejo que estou sozinho. Tô na estrada pra mudar.